Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to talk a bit about myself and my journey to becoming an artist. At the end of the video I'll talk about where my art practice is today and also the kind of videos that you can expect on this channel in the future. So let's begin. I was quite an arty kid and I was influenced by my mum and my grandma, who were both very creative and into art. We didn't have a TV at home until I was 13, so I read a lot of books, and to this day I am a total bookworm. I remember when people would ask me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I would always say artist or bookmaker. It's funny how we instinctively know what we are, but it kind of gets squashed by the voices around us as we are growing up. As I moved into my teenage years, I became obsessed with music, which posed a bit of a problem because at age 14 I had to choose between music or art to keep studying. I decided in the end that art would be easier to keep studying at home, and to be honest, the art lessons at school weren't very inspirational anyway, so I picked music. At around this time, my grandma invited me to her house for a week-long visit and we did art every day. She really picked up on my love of art and was so encouraging. She planned different art activities to do every day and it was like being on a week-long art retreat. I have such fond memories of that week and it makes me determined to pay it forward to kids in my life in the future. After that I kind of left art behind as I grew up and went out into the world. I worked in the charity sector and I really wanted to help people who were suffering. I didn't completely forget about art, but it didn't seem like something I should be spending too much time on when I had more important things going on. What I didn't know at the time was that I was struggling with undiagnosed mental health issues. It all came crashing down on me in 2011 when I had a very serious episode of poor mental health and I had to stop working. At that time I had to move back in with my mum and I was at a very low point. She reintroduced me to crochet, which I'd learned at some point, but only briefly. There was something so soothing about the repetitive stitching, making something tangible and beautiful with my hands. I made a stripy blanket and I just concentrated on each stripe and what colour I was going to do next. I think it was quite symbolic that I was making a blanket too, something that's designed to soothe and comfort. One of the great things about crochet is that it's very forgiving. You can stop and put it down anytime you need to have a rest. I had very little energy, so I needed to stop often. In retrospect, I think the crochet helped me to access the state of flow, which quietened my mind, which was something I desperately needed at that time. It also gave me something to look forward to, seeing how the blanket developed, and it helped me to see that I could effect change. I was able to create something, and I really needed that too. So after making the stripy blanket, and as I got a little bit better, I made some friends who lived close to my mum. Hello to Kate and Sula. And we would meet once a month to do crafts together. Kate was into sewing and she showed me this amazing patchwork blanket that she'd made with old clothes and different fabrics. She could tell me all about the different fabrics. She would say, this was the t-shirt that I wore when I went interrailing around Europe, or this was from my old swimming costume. It was so inspiring and I started to teach myself how to sew. A couple of years after I moved in with my mum, I fell in love and moved in with my now husband Pete in a different city. Soon after we moved in together, I started to do a patchwork and quilting course. I made a sampler quilt and I learned a huge amount about how to use a sewing machine and different kinds of fabrics. It was a real education. When we were planning our wedding, I was inspired by my great-grandmother, who was married in a patchwork dress in the 1920s, and also by Kate's quilt. And I decided to make my own patchwork wedding dress using fabrics from friends and family. I put a request out to everyone for fabrics that had a bit of a story to them, and we received loads. So it was all hand-sewn hexagons done in the English paper-pieced way. I also got people to help sew the hexagons together. I even taught Pete how to sew. My original dream was for a floor-length gown, but I realised that I was running out of time, so it ended up being a knee-length dress instead. And Pete wore a patchwork waistcoat. I love the symbolism of being wrapped in the love sent in the fabrics and stitched together by our friends and family. It was the best day. So I carried on studying patchwork, quilting and textile arts in general for a few years. And I realised that the part of it I loved the most was the dyeing, painting and printing on the fabrics. I was buying a lot of beautiful quilting fabric and I realised that what I really wanted to be doing was making the artwork on the fabric itself rather than buying other people's artwork and cutting it up for quilts. I realised that in order to make fabric designs I would need to learn how to make repeat patterns and probably how to be able to do them digitally. Back then I didn't have any experience with Photoshop or Illustrator, so I started taking a course in surface pattern design and I started teaching myself how to use the Adobe suite. The next big turning point for me was a weekend workshop that I went on, hosted by Moira Scott, called Wild Painting. It was amazing. We painted on 1 metre square canvases with acrylic paint, and it was all about painting intuitively and enjoying the process. Moira is heavily influenced by Flora Bowley, who is the queen of intuitive painting. I hadn't done any painting for years, and I was absolutely petrified of drawing after a bad experience I had in a life drawing class. This weekend workshop that I did with Moira unlocked something in me, and it was like the floodgates opened and I just fell in love with painting. I couldn't stop. I was painting outside in the garden, I was painting in sketchbooks, on paper. I just wanted to hold on to that really joyful feeling I had on the first weekend workshop and the creative freedom that it unlocked in me. In 2019, we moved to Amsterdam. I kept painting and exploring and doing different workshops and courses about different art techniques. In 2021, I got a little studio space in a creative incubator in Amsterdam called the Treehouse. It was amazing to be surrounded by other artists. Finally, other people like me. I felt a real sense of belonging, that I could be accepted within a group, within a community, without having to wear a mask. While I was there, I worked on a series of big paintings called time capsules. I did a big collaborative painting for King's Day, where I asked people to paint a bird on my canvas. I started teaching in-person workshops, and I was part of some exhibitions and some art performances. I even had the honour of co-curating an exhibition all about the process of creation. That time was a huge journey of self-discovery, figuring out what my art was all about, and figuring out who I am. I think that's a lifelong journey that we're all on, but I definitely feel a lot more in touch with those things now. So I'm filming this in 2023, and at the moment my art studio is back at home. I love teaching workshops in person, but I wanted to reach more people around the world. So I decided to film my workshops and make them available online instead. That's involved a steep learning curve in terms of filming, editing, video content creation and all of that. So that's why I started out making videos for YouTube. I'm actually working on my first online workshop, which is going to be available soon. My art recently has started to come full circle and include elements of textile design. I think I used to see textile art and painting as two completely separate things, but recently I've started to see the boundary between them dissolve a little bit and see how you can maybe combine them. As I'm working from home at the moment, I'm not working on any big paintings, but I'm kind of okay with that. A lot of the art that I'm working on at the moment is art for my video content, but that's okay. I'm still following my own curiosity off camera, and those things tend to make good videos later. Since the Wild Painting weekend in 2017, I have kept up my sketchbook practice. Don't force myself to do it every day or every week or anything like that. I just turn to it when I have the urge. I also try to get to the zoo and sketch the animals about once a month, because that's one of the only times that I practice drawing, but also I just love it. So the videos that I have planned for this channel include ideas for different art techniques, especially new and interesting ways to use different materials. I also make videos about the mindset that's really helped me to be kind and gentle to myself and to my art, and that has allowed me to keep going. In the future, I would love to make more videos about going out and exploring the local area and how I interpret those things that I find out in the world in my art. Is there anything else that you would like me to cover in these videos? You can let me know in the comments. I really hope you enjoy this channel and joining me on this journey as I learn how to do this YouTube thing. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. See you on the next video. Bye bye.